because I was miserable. And, and the worst kind of hell is the hell that you know that you put yourself there. And that was where I was. I was in a figurative hell, and I knew how I got there. It was my fault, and it's a terrible place to be. I recommend for you have somebody in your life that you know that is suffering from that. I have mixed feelings about how you can help people that are in that situation, but I think tell the truth. I don't know where it is in the Bible, but there's somewhere in the Bible where it sort of alludes to this idea that true compassion can look like cruelty, because people often don't want to hear the truth, and that's exactly what they need sometimes. People need the truth, and a lot of times they don't want it. And a lot of times, like, you're trying to help somebody, you don't want to hurt them, so sometimes you might hide the truth from them. You might not tell them what you really think. But I think if done with compassion and charity, you can help people see the truth. And then, it is kind of up to them. And there is that whole thing of like, yeah, you can show people the door, but they have to walk through it. You can show people the door. I had a friend where I tried to show him the door and then kick him through the door. That does not work. I tried to like push him through the door. It's like, bro, this is this way. Let's go this way. And tried to drag him through the door, and he did not want to go. And, he was alcoholic, living kind of the same type of, sort of, again, hedonistic, maybe life that I was. And he was kind of miserable and drinking himself to death. And I was sort of desperate to try to save him. But I couldn't. Tough lesson. I hope he has found peace, in the spirit realm. So yeah, like when you're thinking about the chart, I think it is important to sort of think about it like, this is representing heaven, the spirit realm, and earth on like multiple levels, in multiple ways. And, I'd like to talk about some of those ways tomorrow. So I'm going to do this every day that I can to try to get over this TikTok requirement, that I do these things so that we can sort of push this so that you guys we can interact and talk, and that's kind of what I want this to become. Once I started hanging out with these Formscapes people and really connecting with some of them, I kind of realized that's been something that's missing from the shared story, was like this kind of back and forth. And I guess I didn't realize how much I needed this kind of thing in my life, of just like-minded people. I try to talk to people at work about this kind of stuff. And, the truth is, it's like most people I don't think are interested necessarily. And so, to be able to go online and kind of search out people who actually are interested, they're coming to the shared story because they're interested. There's like automatically this connection there, because this is the kind of thing that I really, it's the only thing I really want to talk about. I also want to talk about how that interfaces with politics, because I'm very interested in politics, as I think people should be to some degree. Although, and I said this yesterday, I've tried to keep my politics separate from the shared story, because I think it changes the vibe. But I am going to look for ways to sort of try to test that ground of like, how political can I get without tribalizing myself, I think politics really has come down to liberty versus authority. I mean, that's as simple as I can make it. I believe like the idea of liberty is a discovery of truth. I believe it is like a fundamental truth that, we are given rights by God. Like, we have rights, and if we don't have them, it's because a human being has taken them. That does drive a lot of my philosophical, sort of political perspective. Yeah, like, politics is gross now. I mean, it's always been gross, but I think the dying legacy media and the clickbait culture has pushed politics into this. People can't even debate the issues properly. You go into some of these comment sections, and it's like you've got two sides arguing where neither side is really on point at all. Like, I mean, the language has become so confused. Like, people don't even know what they mean when they say democracy at this point. People talk about democracy, and I don't think they really even get what they're saying. I think politics at its core is an activity where people are trying to agree on the shared story in the center. Like, people are trying to come to an agreement socially, culturally, in terms of how government should act. That's what politics, I think, is trying to do. But and so yes, and because politics is a tool, like any tool, the corrupt will use it to their advantage, and that's that's why I think politics is so gross and messy. I don't think politics is gross and messy at its core. I think it's just what has been done to this tool, that we need. Just like government, I believe, is a tool that humans have to contend with. And that's kind of why I'm not necessarily an anarchist, but I do believe that there's there's a proper way for humans to organize their societies. And I think, again, without risking to being too political, the American system and the Bill of Rights, I think, is the closest we've been able to come, to like a social agreement on what the shared story should be. And I try to talk about that in the Magician video, where the shared story at the center is that the individual is like a sacred unit of measurement, and that the individual has certain rights that it was created with. And if it doesn't have the rights, it's because some other group or some other human has taken them. I think that's pretty basic. Although nowadays, people go, what do you mean by rights? It's like, well, people think we have a right to food and water and healthcare, and I don't know that we have a right to those things, because those things require other people's labor. We have a right. I think that's why the Constitution it's not perfect, but it is, I think, special in that it identifies these rights. The First Amendment is connected to your ability to think, in my view. And the Second Amendment is there to protect the first one. And, to me, the Second Amendment is also connected to this idea that as a human being, you own yourself. The state doesn't own you. Your neighbor doesn't own you. You can own yourself, therefore you can own other things. Therefore, you have the right to defend yourself using whatever means you have at your disposal, and so that's, to me, where the Second Amendment comes in, of like, you have right to own a tool to use to defend yourself against whether it's the state or other people. I think we can appreciate, the sort of philosophical ground that America has gained, and also acknowledge that, a lot of horrifying things, America is a big idea, and I think big ideas cast long shadows, Like we said earlier, somebody was talking about, politics has been taken over to manipulate people, and, of course. And America's no different, and in a lot of ways, because of the level of freedom in America, it kind of makes the problem worse, because people are more free to be corrupt. But I don't think that should be cause to abandon these principles, though. I think it just requires a more educated and responsible population. I think Jefferson said, this type of government isn't for everyone. It's for a moral and educated people and informed people. And if the media is not informing people properly, then yeah, you're going to get a lot of confusion.